Okay girl, so I just finished reading these 2 books and we need to talk about it, okay? And let's do that while I do my makeup as Avatar Kyoshi. I'm also going to be talking about Avatar Aang, and I'm also going to be talking about Avatar Korra, okay? I'm going to be making like a comparison between the 3 of them, okay? Let's get into it. The first thing I want to say about the Kyoshi book is that I needed a map. And I had to Google it because I was a little bit lost when they started talking about the Yokoya, or what's the name? Anyway, when they were talking about where Kyoshi was living at the time, I was like a little bit confused on where was that, you know? And then obviously when you start reading the book, you know that Kyoshi is the Avatar, right? Because we know that. But Mr. Jiansu, he had falsely identified the Avatar. Like he had another kid who was June. I was like, wait, what? Wasn't it supposed to be Kyoshi? But that's the thing about the book. Everybody thought that Yoon was the Avatar, and then it wasn't Yoon, it was Kyoshi. But my thing is, if the Avatar is supposed to bend all the 4 elements, right? And like apparently they do a test on you to know if you are the Avatar. How is it that Jiansu, to do it with my finger because I don't have the brush, whatever. How is it that Jiansu thought that Yoon was the Avatar? And I know that he thought that Yoon was the Avatar because he used like the same technique in Pai Show as a previous Avatar. Like I get it, but at the same time, baby, like if you are not able to bend another element other than your native element, if you're not the Avatar. Like I don't understand why Jiansu was so quick into naming Yoon the Avatar without like taking the proper precautions. And I know that he was desperate because like they needed the Earth Avatar or whatever the but like, bro, calm down. The thing is that then Mr. Jiansu goes to a spirit to ask the spirit like, hey, who is the Avatar? Because I don't know, clearly he didn't know, he doesn't know shit. And then the spirit says like, oh, it's her, the girl, Kyoshi. And this motherfucker leaves June to the spirit. He could have saved both Kyoshi and June. Like I don't understand why he left June. But then here the book takes a turn and we follow Kyoshi as the Avatar, or her becoming of the Avatar. Here what really surprised me, Kyoshi's parents were the founders of the Dao Fei and Kyoshi's mom was an airbender. I'm not gonna lie to you, this moment for me was giving very much YN, because it's like, oh, my parents are the founder of criminal organization. Like I don't know, it was giving YN. I loved it, but it was giving very much YN. The thing is that Kyoshi becomes a member of the Dao Fei because obviously her parents were the founders. Here what bothered me was Rangi. She was like, oh my god, no, you cannot be part of the Dao Fei, like they are criminals. Like girl, who gives a fuck? She's the Avatar, like she can do whatever the fuck she wants. Baby, if I was the Avatar, I just wish I was the Avatar. Like that's my dream power, you know? Like, you know when people ask you like, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? Like, baby, I want to control the elements. And then the other plot twist for me, because I thought at the beginning that Kyoshi was kind of in love with June, so I thought, oh, they're in love. Baby, Kyoshi is in love with Rangi. Like I was like, oh, bisexual queen. I did not see that coming. Then something that happened in the book that bothered me was that Leek or Lek, the kid, he died. I did not like that at all. Then in the second book, or I don't remember if it's at the end of the first book, but we discover that June is alive and he killed Jiansu. I'm sorry, but I'm siding with June because you're not about to tell me that I'm the Avatar and then tell me that I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Like you fill my head with so many promises and so many things, and also all the training that June had to go through, how to firebend this and that. He was never going to accomplish it because he's not the Avatar. If you make me go through all that shit for nothing, I will be pissed too. I will be pissed with Jiansu as well. So that's why when June told Jiansu, I was like, well, I was kind of expecting that, to be honest. I mean, I think Jiansu himself, he was expecting that as well, because baby, ain't no way that you're living this one alive. The second book, in my opinion, compared to the first book, was a little bit like slower. I don't know. The interesting part of the second book was June's character. And then finally, like when June and Kyoshi fought, the thing that I didn't like about that fight was that Kyoshi involved Rangi and the other Dao Fei members in the fight. I wish the fight was only between Kyoshi and June, because she's the Avatar, you know, and like I feel like it was her fight alone. The other thing that I was thinking about is that, you know how Kyoshi lived for like 300 years, or I don't know. I was thinking like, how was it that she achieved to live so long? Right? Because we don't know. That's something that pissed me off about the book. they don't explain to you how is it that Kyoshi achieved to live for so long. But something that caught my attention was a conversation that she had with the water tribe healer. And the water tribe healer mentions that you can kind of like stop the metabolism of the cells, and that way the patient wouldn't die. But it's like a very difficult technique, this and that, I don't know, they're talking about it. And then that's what she does with Jun, like she froze him or something like that. So I was just thinking that maybe Kyoshi, instead of like freezing the cells, maybe she stopped the metabolism of her own body, and that's why she wasn't aging, and that's why she was able to live for so long. Because I saw somebody said that it was like an earth bending technique how she achieved to live for so long. But what about the earth? Can you bend in your body to achieve to live for long? You know what I'm saying? Like the human body is like 60-70% water, so it will make sense that the technique that she used to achieve to be able to live for 200 years will be a water bending technique. Do you see what I'm saying? So that was something that I didn't like about the book. Like they never explained how was it that Kyoshi lived for so long, and that was like something that I was really looking forward to know, because it's like, yeah girl, like teach me your ways, you know. Anyway, yeah, the book, I liked it, but I wish it was animated, if I'm being very honest. Plus Kyoshi lived for 200 years, like they can make a show out of that. Let's talk about Avatar Aang, because I have a lot to say about the show.
Edge, Guyat, Skibbity, Tax Collector.
Okay, first of all, I remember how I got into the show. I got into the show late. I'm not gonna lie to you and say like, oh yeah, I was a fan since I was a kid. Like, no girl, I got into the show very fucking late. I remember I was in high school and me and my friends were having this conversation of, oh, if you had a superpower, which superpower would you want to have? And I said, oh, I would love to control the elements. And one of my friends said, oh, like the Avatar. And I'm like, because I didn't know what it was. I was like, what do you mean Avatar? Like I was thinking about the blue aliens. He's like, what are you talking about? They don't control the elements. They're just like some magical shit going on, but they don't control the elements. And he was like, no girl, like the Avatar, the last airbender. I'm like, okay, what the f are you talking about? I have never heard of that. And he told me like, oh, it's just this kid and he controls the element. And I'm like, no fucking way. Like no fucking way that this exists, and I didn't knew about it, you know. At that time the show of Avatar was not on Netflix, so I didn't knew where to watch it. One of my friends told me like, oh, I can lend it to you because my little brother has the show. Like he had the DVD, girl. And I was like, oh my god, no way, like can you give it to me? And then he gave it to me, and that's how I watched the Avatar, girl, on DVD. Can you believe that? And girl, ever since that day, and mind you, I was in high school, I was late, and I feel like I was a little bit too old to be like, you know, that shit. But you know, like I don't care. I like cartoons, I don't give a fuck. What I was saying is that we need to talk about some of the stuff that happened in Avatar Aang. Like I need to share with you. Okay, first of all, let's talk about the elements, okay? The best element, in my opinion, is water. Argue with the wall, girl. Yeah, some people might say like, oh, it's actually air. I understand where you're coming from, because we as humans, we breathe air.
Breathe air!
But at the same time, water is just that, girl. Can we talk about Zuko and Katara? While I was watching the show, I always thought that they were going to be endgame, because in my opinion, I feel like Katara was crushing on Zuko. The scene that made me think that Katara and Zuko were going to be endgame was the cave scene, because she had that water, the healing water, whatever, and she knew damn well that was for Aang. Like if something happens to Aang, you need to use that water on Aang because he's the priority. And she has one silly conversation with Zuko about his face, and she's like, oh my god, yeah, maybe I can use the water on you. Like girl, be for real? How are you gonna use the water on Zuko? Like for real, that made me think like, oh my god, she likes him. And then she didn't give him the water, but she was about to give him the water, and I was like, whoa, what's going on? The other scene that got me, like, I was like, wait, what? When they were at the theater and Zuko didn't move, so Aang would sit next to Katara. Like, I know Aang was livid, so I'm like, oh, maybe Zuko likes her too. Like, I don't know, like I'm seeing some romance here. And then the other instance that I was like, whoa, it's giving romance, was when Zuko saved Katara from Azula. I have a controversial opinion about that. I don't know why Katara was standing there. Knowing Azula, like I wouldn't be near that woman because she was tweaking out, you know, and Katara was like kind of standing there, so I feel like it was, what I'm trying to say is that she made it easy for Azula to make her Katara a target.
Alright, shut up.
You shut up.
That's why your shoes raggedy.
That's why your mama dead. Dead as hell.
What shoes she got on? What shoes she had on her casket?
But when Zuko saved her, I was like, whoa, it's giving romance. Another thing is that I always thought that Katara saw Aang as a little brother or something like that, you know? Like, I don't know, that's why it was kind of surprising to me when they ended up together, like, wow.
Talk about pretty privilege. Let's talk about how pretty you have to be able to rock a bald hairstyle. Because look at this shit.
Because she was always giving like, oh, I don't like him. She was never giving that vibe with Aang, in my opinion. And then suddenly she's like, oh yeah, me and Aang are together. Like, I don't know. It's just something happened. And I feel like Katara had a little crush on Zuko and him on her. But then I feel like Katara wouldn't have been with him because I feel like the problem is Zuko. Like, I really believe that Zuko will be like, no, like, girl, you're not from the Fire Nation. I cannot be with you.
You little peasant.
Shut your mouth, you water tribe peasant!
I really believe that he will say some shit like that.
You're a Latina? How the f did you get in the United States?
You know how Sokka has like no bending ability? I feel like his bending ability is being the wrist bender. Cause he was booked and busy. Like, all the girls had a crush on Sokka. From Avatar Aang, my favorite character was obviously Toph, because I feel like she was that girl throughout the whole show.
Besides, even if you did, you're too much of a pussy to do anything about it.
When you're doing a makeup look and you look at the mirror and you look like this, trust the process, okay?
Stop it, Uncle Rizzo. I have to watch Skibidi.
I'm begging you, Prince Taco. It's time for you to look at some gats and begin asking yourself the big questions. Who are you? And are you a Sigma?
Always edging me as if I'm a beta.
Now let's talk about Korra. Like, girl, okay, I'm gonna say this. Korra for me was so disappointing to watch. Let me tell you why. First of all, the character design threw me off because she looked, in my opinion, she looked way too much like Katara. They could have made her, I don't know, have bangs or have like 2 pigtails or just something that made her look different. I know, like, oh, but they're from the same tribe, whatever the fuck. Like, no, cabrón. No, mira lo que pasó. I'm going to crash out. I'm going to crash out. I'm going to lose my mind because I didn't do all of this for me to be stupid and fuck up. No, 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 no. It can't be. It can't be.
Now you trying to say party. I got a Dotson on them motherfucker. Fuck.
This makeup is gonna turn out a mess. I feel like it already is, but I am like pushing through it. But it's giving mess. It's giving mess. It's giving no technique. It's giving first time doing makeup. Going back to Korra, I feel like they should have made her more like this other character that you can tell that this character is from the Water Tribe, but she looks different. She has a very unique style is what I'm trying to say. So I wish they would have given Korra a more unique style, incorporating the Water Tribe elements, but just something different. The other thing that pissed me off, and this really pissed me off about The Legend of Korra, was the setting, because it went from being in like no technology Asian setting to then the beginning of the industrialization. Like, it was so American. Republic City was giving New York City in the 1920s or 1930s. Like, girl, that's not what I want to see. That pissed me off, because something that I like about Avatar was the setting, that it was like, you know, it was not in the United States. It was not in the United States. It was Asian and it was different and they had no technology, so people being benders made sense. But how are you going to change it to be in New York in the beginning of the industrialization? Like, it was giving Titanic. You know, when Rose arrived to New York, it was giving very much that. It was giving The Great Gatsby. Like, I don't want to see that. It's the Avatar. I don't want the setting of New York. Not everything needs to be Americanized. I'm sorry, but not everything needs to be Americanized. It was very good how it was, and then they f***ed it up. And I really believe that. Like, that's my opinion. The other thing that pissed me off, or that I didn't like as much, was the villains. Because every season felt like they were in a hurry to get rid of that villain. Puñeta. To present to you a different villain in the second season or in the third season and whatever. Like, I wish they would have stayed with the same villain, or like maybe make a group of villains and stay with them from the beginning to the end. Like, for example, Amon. Let's talk about him, because I feel like if I was born in the Avatar universe and I had no bending ability, mama, I will be pissed. I would not like the benders. Even if they were not bad people, like, I would not like them, because it's like, oh no, like you have this cool ability that you can bend an element, and here I am like with no technique. I would be pissed, girl. I would be pissed. So I feel like that storyline of benders versus non-benders was kind of interesting to follow. I feel like they didn't explore it. They didn't explore all of it. And then the other villain, that fight between Korra and that spirit dude was like laser beam fight. Like it was not giving. It felt like they wanted to go Marvel on the Avatar universe. You see what I'm saying? An Avatar universe is not Marvel. Like I said, everything doesn't need to be Americanized, but it's like, no, I don't want to see Marvel. I don't want to see this stupid laser beam fight. Like, I want to see bending fight. You see what I'm saying? On top of that, they got rid of all the previous avatars. Like, what the fuck? That was literally some bullshit in that show. A lot of people say that Korra is like a good fighter because when she was 5 she already dominated 3 of the 4 elements. But how is it that you dominate 3 of the 4 elements at the age of 5, and then when you're 16 or 17, I don't know how old she was at the beginning of the show, you're not like the best bender ever? You know what I mean? Like, if you see the fight with Amon, they were going all out on Amon and he was just like evading the attacks because at the beginning he wasn't blood bending because there was people, and you know how he was pretending to be a non-bender. So at the beginning he wasn't bending anything. He was just like evading the attacks and they couldn't land a blow on him. And then when he started blood bending, she's not fighting back. Like, I cannot believe that her native element is water and she doesn't know how to blood bend. And I know that blood bending is like prohibited in the Avatar universe, but I wouldn't give a fuck. Like, girl, if I'm the Avatar, and not only I'm the Avatar, but my native element is water, I will learn how to blood bend. Like, nobody's gonna tell me that I cannot blood bend, because if she could blood bend, that wouldn't have happened with Amon. But no, like, they want to talk about like, oh, blood bending is a bad thing. Like, girl, and going back to Korra, she is not that girl. I'm sorry, but she is not. Like, I was expecting her to be at the top of the top, because that's what they tell you at the beginning of the show. Like, oh, she dominates 3 of the 4 elements. So how is it that you're always getting by your ops?
Now that I'm rewatching Legend of Korra, I'm starting to understand why she gets the hate that she gets. She was like a toddler, 3, 4, 5 years old, however the fuck she was, and she was just busting out with earth, fire, and water like it wasn't nothing. When every other avatar had to go travel and learn to master them, and this is mostly when they're like, what, young adults and teenagers. Yeah, she's 4 or 5 years old, whatever the case is, and she's just whipping it out like it's nothing. So it's like you had way more than enough time to perfect your elements and fighting style, and yet here you are, a teenager, supposed to be the strongest, and you keep getting your ass whooped by all your ops. Like, that makes no sense. I
do not get it. Like, I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't want to hear any excuses. Korra was so bad for me that I started rooting for Amon. I'm sorry, but I did. I was like, you know what? If she cannot defeat you, maybe you should take her ability to bend. Maybe she doesn't deserve to be the Avatar. You've been bending 3 of the 4 elements since you were 5, and you let this man take away your bending? Give me the power of the Avatar, because you're not that girl. Give it to me. Give it to me. I want it. I want it, and I will appreciate it more. So pissed. The other thing that pissed me off about Korra was the storyline, because going back to her being a prodigy at age 5, because they did that arc with the poison, then she had to like kind of like learn how to control the elements again, blah blah blah. Okay, I get it. Like, they were trying to give her the humbling arc.
You were tossing me around like a rag doll all day long.
I know, and I'm an old lady. Imagine me in my prime.
But I feel like it wasn't as satisfying as I was expecting it to be, because I feel like a much better arc for her would have been if, when she was fighting with Amon, what if he broke her 2 arms and then she couldn't use her arms, and let's say that now she doesn't have arms, so now she needs to learn how to bend without her 2 arms, which I feel it would be very difficult because you don't have your 2 arms. You know how they did that lady from the water tribe, that she didn't have arms and she made water as the extension of her arms? I feel like if they made Korra like that, it would have been much more interesting, and maybe they could have followed the storyline of her sympathizing with people that are non-benders, because now she can't bend because she doesn't have arms. Do you see what I'm saying? I feel like if they gave Korra a storyline like that and made her learn how to bend the elements with no arms, and then she had that ability of making water the extension of her arms, and also she could have had the ability to make earth an extension of her arms, and then air and fire, she could have bent them with her mouth and with her feet. I feel like that would have been a very cool storyline because she will be very special. It's just that when I saw that lady, that water tribe lady, I thought, oh my god, they should have given something of that storyline to Korra, because it would have made Korra such a much more interesting character rather than have her take some poison and then, like, I don't know, like, I didn't like that character arc. Another thing is that, oh, she was afraid of Amon taking away her bending. Like, you're the Avatar. I feel like that was so silly of her. Like, I wouldn't be afraid of you. I'm the Avatar. Nobody is taking the bending away from me. That's why for me that storyline didn't make sense, because how is it that you're the Avatar and people can take the bending away from you? Yeah, I just wish that they had given Korra just a different storyline, just something different, something more interesting, something that made the audience sympathize with her a little bit more, and something that really humbled her. Because at the end of the day, everybody knew, like, we all knew that she was not going to lose her ability to bend. Like, again, she is the Avatar. Like, girl, if I'm the Avatar, no bitch is gonna tell me like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take away the bending from you. Like, no, you're fine. I will beat the shit out of you. The other thing that I didn't like about Avatar Korra was the Avatar gang. Like, it was just so trash. Everybody in that gang was trash. I'm sorry, but they were not interesting characters at all. I feel like Bolin was maybe the one that I liked the best, but I feel like the relationship between the characters didn't make sense, because at first I felt like, oh, Korra is going to be with Bolin, but then no, she was with Mako, but then Mako had a girlfriend, and then she's part of the gang, and then like they have a weird love triangle, and then none of them are with Mako and they end up with each other. Where did that come from? How did that happen? Like, I didn't understand the dynamic of the gang at all, and they were toxic as fuck. The other thing that I didn't like about Korra's show was that for me, they f***ed up the previous gang. Like, how are you gonna tell me that Toph is a police officer? Like, she comes from money. We know that her family has money. Like, they talk about it. She's a Bei Fong. They have money. I have never met a person from money end up being a police officer. Like, girl, that doesn't make any fucking sense. That doesn't make sense at all. Like, girl, I do not believe it. Like, I truly believe that she was going to end up opening an academy of earthbenders and metalbenders or something like that. For me, it will make more sense that Sokka ended up as a police officer because he had no bending ability. So him coming up with something to catch the bad guys, that would make sense. If I had to choose from Kyoshi, Aang, or Korra, I'm sorry, but Aang is my favorite. It's just, the show is just so good. The show is just the perfect show. Every episode from Avatar Aang is just such a good show. Maybe if they made Kyoshi into a show and they show us all the 200 and something years that she was alive, it could be interesting, because the story of there being another Avatar, like she wasn't the Avatar from the beginning, this and that, I feel like is very interesting. That's something that lacked in Korra, the simplicity of the show. Like, they try to go so big and so crazy with the Korra show, and it just f***ed it up. You it up. It was disappointing. I'm sorry, if you're a Korra fan, that's fine, you can like it, but I don't like it. Talking about the makeup, I don't know, I feel like it could have been a little bit more polished. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you when I see ya, okay? Bye!
Who the fuck did your hair? What? Nah, I'm on the phone. I'm on the phone.